Story 1. This father-daughter photo. The man in the photo, Franklin Delano Floyd, had married a woman and had custody over her children while she was in prison for 30 days. The girl in the photo is one of the children, whom Floyd decided to kidnap to start a new life with, leaving behind her siblings. 2 went to foster care, and 1, an infant, had never been found. The photo was taken shortly after moving, claiming her as his biological daughter, and changing their names. He later went on to marry her. It's a rabbit hole in itself involving other abductions, murder, and kidnappings. Floyd is a disturbing individual, and the photo is so eerie with the story it has. Story 2. An old violin being sold at auction. At $1.5 million, it's one of the most valuable violins in the world. Not because of who made it, but because of who played it. The initials Wallace Hartley stand for Wallace Hartley, the lead violinist on the Titanic. This is the instrument he played the night she sank, before Hartley himself died. This violin was found floating in the debris field. Kids playing on a street in Pripyat. The entire city will be forcibly evacuated due to the explosion at the nearby Chernobyl nuclear reactor. This old photo, taken in 1924 during one of the first British expeditions to Mount Everest. Shortly after this was taken, the 2 men in the picture, George Mallory and Sandy Irvine, would make an attempt for the summit. Mallory's body will be found in 1999. We still haven't found Irvine. Story 3. Alan Ruby, a freshman at the University of Oklahoma in 2014, murdered his entire family on a Friday. The next day, he drove down to Dallas for the University of Oklahoma-Texas football game, where he stayed in a hotel with his friends and posted a candid photo on Instagram in what I assume would be an attempt to build an alibi. It didn't work, as he quickly confessed and received multiple life sentences. Still, I can't imagine what the people in this photo and others who were probably in that hotel room must have felt when they learned what had happened. Story 4. I'm late, but this image is of a 23-year-old woman hitchhiking carrying her infant son while apartment hunting on Mother's Day, posted in a local newspaper. It's tragic because I believe it's possibly the last photo of her alive. Less than 4 months later, she was killed by her husband during a fight. In between this photo and the murder, their son was taken away and put into foster care, where he was later adopted by his foster parents. Story 5. This is the last image of a woman called Corey Van Vegel, who went missing on her descent of the Mardi Himal trek in Nepal in February 2018. I was lucky enough to meet her in a hot spring a couple of days before. She had come to Nepal on her own to do some trekking and a yoga retreat. She only had 4 to 5 days of trekking left, which included a hike up from the hot springs to Mardi Himal base camp and then back down to the city of Pokhara. I only knew she had gone missing because I saw her missing person poster in the mountain village I was staying in a few weeks later. She was a lovely person, full of life and adventure, sociable and kind, and it's weird to think I was one of the last people she ever met. Rest in peace. Story 6. This image is from the 1988 Gladbeck hostage crisis in Germany. The man on the left is a robber, and the girl on the right is a hostage who was killed while the police were taking action to stop the crisis. On the first day, 2 men robbed a bank and held some people as hostages. They initially demanded a getaway car. They were given a white Audi and 300,000 German marks. They took 2 hostages with them in the car. Later, one of the robbers' sisters boarded the car with them. News reporters followed them in their cars. The next day, the robbers hijacked a bus with 32 passengers on board. A couple of times, they allowed a news reporter to enter the bus and interview them. Later, one of the robbers even exited the bus to give an interview. You can see the hostage bus in the background. He said that he doesn't care what will happen in the end because he will kill himself and that he doesn't care about his life. Later, they released some hostages from the bus and drove the bus away. They stopped the bus at a gas station, where the sister of one of the robbers went to the toilet, and the police arrested her. When the robber found out about it, he said that they had 5 minutes to free her, or a hostage would be killed. She was released, but while she was returning to the bus, an Italian teenager was killed by the robbers. The Italian teenager was protecting his little sister. He could have survived if there had been an ambulance near the gas station. At night, They drove the bus to the Netherlands, where the Dutch police demanded that they release the young hostages first before accepting any offerings from the robbers. After releasing some hostages, the Dutch police provided the robbers with a BMW car with remote control. The robbers took 2 hostages with them and drove back to Germany. Later, they were surrounded by many media reporters who took numerous pictures of the scene. While driving on the highway, the German police finally took action and rammed the hostage car. The remote control was forgotten somewhere, so it wasn't used. One of the hostages managed to escape off the highway, while the other hostage was shot and killed. The driver-robber later stated in an interview that the bullets from the policeman killed the hostage. The German police deny this, saying that the robber's bullet hit the hostage. The police and the media were heavily criticized due to the lack of police action and not allowing any police near the crime scene by the media. Story 7. This was from a case in Denmark a couple of years ago. The woman was a Swedish journalist who was invited by the man to come with him in his home-built submarine. This was one of the last pictures of her before he brutally killed her and dumped her mutilated body in different places under the water to hide it. A crazy man with a disturbed mind. Story 8. This picture of Russian ambassador to Turkey Andrei Karlov standing in an art gallery about to give a conference. Behind him is Mevlut Mert Altintas, the man who is about to assassinate him. Story 9. I know this thread is a little old now, but some morbid readers may find this fascinating. This photo is of Issei Sagawa, an actual cannibal from Japan. This photo was taken for a Japanese magazine after he was released from prison due to insanity. He was frequently on talk shows, reviewed restaurants for magazines, and even appeared in horror films. He wrote a book on his murder of Renee Hartevelt, and you can read in explicit detail about how his mind conflated eating her to a romantic act. Note: it is not for the faint of heart. It will not leave you. Story 10. Mike Hawthorne and Ivor Webb celebrating with champagne after winning the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Specifically the 1955 Sierra Leonean Leonesmans, during which 84 people, mostly spectators, were killed in a crash. A crash which was at least partially caused by Hawthorne. Here's an old British Path news video about the race which includes footage of the crash. Story 11. Last image of Sydney Luff before she was murdered by her Tinder date. She had been cut into 14 pieces, and part of her upper left arm was never found. Her body was brought to the morgue in 6 separate bags. Story 12. This picture was taken by the crew of a ship who saw this girl, aged 11, floating on a disintegrating float. Her whole family was murdered on a sailboat by their hired captain who left her to drown with the sinking boat. She miraculously made it to the Cork life float. She drifted for 4 days with no water or food, being burned by the sun. Upon hearing that she had survived, the captain killed himself. Story 13. This article shows a photo of 3 girls smiling together in a selfie. The light on the right-hand side of the photo is the headlight of the train that hits them moments later. Story 14. Here are over 100 pictures taken by serial killer Rodney Alcala, also known as the dating game killer. Alcala would say he was a photographer and convince people to model for him in remote locations. It is unknown how many people this man killed in his time as a serial killer. Any of these photos could be of people he killed. Story 15. The top photo looks like a police officer relaxing. It is a fake police officer who, when the photo was taken, had just been arrested after killing 77 people, among them approximately 60 children and teenagers, and injuring around 250 people. He set off a bomb in the city that killed 8 people and then went to an island where a youth camp was being held. He started shooting. They were trapped on the island and had to swim to escape. Children who didn't know who was shooting approached him for safety because he was dressed as a police officer, and then he shot them. Story 16. Stephen and Katie Plattle on their wedding day. Stephen with his pregnant wife, his biological daughter, Katie, and his mother, her mother-in-law, also her paternal grandmother, Grace, and Katie's adopted mother and father. He goes on to murder her, the baby, and her adopted father before killing himself. Story 17. The man dressed as Santa Claus in the picture is Bruce MacArthur. He was a landscaper for most of the year and worked as the Agincourt Mall Santa during the holiday season. Between 2010 and 2017, he would lure men to meet up via a dating app, murder them, and spread their remains among planters' boxes at properties he managed. He was found guilty of 8 counts of first-degree murder and is serving life in prison. Story 18. This is Sarah Funk, a YouTuber vlogging her trip to Cyprus's Red Lake. In the picture, there is a suitcase floating in the water. Inside the suitcase, 2 years later, it is going to be revealed the corpse of a 12-year-old girl murdered by a serial killer and ex-military officer Nikos Metaxa. Story 19. This guy took a picture of a bear while in the woods. Shortly after he took that photo, he was killed by that same bear. Story 20. The artist Wolfgang Stahl was projecting a live recording of the Manhattan skyline as part of a gallery show the week of September 6, 2001. The artist's webcam observed the events of September 11th unfold in real time. Given the low-fidelity quality of early webcams, his recording is a live feed of the 9/11 attacks in freeze frames. Stahl inadvertently captured the first plane crashing into the World Trade Center on his webcam. Stahl captured some of the only footage of the first plane. Story 21. The 17-year-old went missing on the morning of February 27th, when he told family members that he planned to hike Haiku Stairs, also known as the Stairway to Heaven. The photo was one of a few photos the teen had texted to family members during his hike, and after extensively studying the pictures, they noticed a man in one of them. The family is now asking for the public's assistance in identifying the man in the photo, hoping he may have more clues that could possibly lead to Pua's location. Story 22. This one. The picture was actually found on the camera of 2 vacationers who were swept away in the 2004 tsunami, which resulted in over 230,000 deaths. Story 23. This is a photo of John List and his family. In 1971, John List shot and killed his mother, wife, and children in their New Jersey home. Earlier in the year, he lost his job and was unable to provide the abundant lifestyle he and his family were accustomed to. This was a failure in his eyes. He hid the loss of his job from his family. He attempted to secure employment, but nothing measured up to his previous salary. So, he remained unemployed and continued leaving his home as if he were going to work while skimming his mother's account to cover the finances. Once that started to run dry, his only logical next step was to kill them. In his mind, going on welfare would have been too humiliating, so he instead opted to send their souls to heaven. He methodically murdered each family member one by one, moved their bodies to the same room, then cleaned each scene. He canceled deliveries, notified the children's teachers they were going on vacation, and cleared out what little was left in the bank. He even went so far as to cut himself out of family photos so as not to leave any account of himself behind. He spent one last night in the home and left the next morning, lights on and organ music blaring through the house's intercom system. Due to List's multiple ruses as well as the family's reclusive nature, the bodies of the List family weren't discovered for a month. By then, List was long gone. He managed to evade authorities for 18 years. It wasn't until prosecutors commissioned an excellent forensic artist to produce a physical bust of List with age progression that he was caught. A neighbor of List recognized him and contacted authorities. He was living under an assumed identity in Colorado. He had gained employment as an accountant and was remarried. List was sentenced to 5 terms of life imprisonment. When asked why he didn't kill himself as well, he replied suicide was a sin and he wanted to be reunited with his family in heaven. He died in custody due to complications of pneumonia in 2008. The List home was a mansion. The room the bodies were placed in was a ballroom. Directly above the bodies of his family in the ballroom was a Tiffany skylight worth $100,000 at the time of the killings, more than enough money to have recovered List and his family from financial ruin. Absolutely senseless and tragic. Story 24. Ayano Tokumasu, a person in a red sweater in the background, lost her footing while posing for a picture and fell into Niagara Falls. Story 25. The pictures of the Dutch girls of Panama. The girls got lost in the jungle and were missing for days. A few months later, a backpack with the camera and these photos was found. Edit. Since there seems to be some confusion, the link is to an Imager album with the photos that also describes the story. Initially, the photos are innocuous, just two girls on a trip. So, I think it fits the original poster's request. Story 26. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is seeking information through images. These are everyday random objects. By helping identify them, you could aid in rescuing a child. These are pictures of people the Federal Bureau of Investigation would like to speak with about their involvement in pornography. I try to post this whenever I see a topic of this nature and roughly every 6 months. I am not affiliated with law enforcement. I just wish for these children to be rescued and for these criminals to be removed from society. Thanks to users Rigby and SKXU for linking to the subreddit Trace an Object, which is the European Union Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation version of this. Thanks to user Peter Van Sika for providing the link to the European Union Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation's Stop Child Abuse Initiative. Story 27. This is actually a video, but basically this man posted a lighthearted vlog entry featuring his sleeping wife, and later found out she had actually passed away.